Let's turn now to your visit to Taiwan. You made history. You were the first speaker to visit in, I guess, more than a generation, 25 years. The visit has resulted in considerable blowback, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But my question to you initially is why now? You received briefings. The risks were laid out to you. What was the cost-benefit analysis that you conducted? Why was it important to make this trip now?
Well, the fact is we were supposed to make it a couple of months ago, but because of COVID, it was postponed. I'm very proud of the delegation, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. Meeks, the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, Mr. Takano, the vice chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Congresswoman Del Bene, Andy Kim of New Jersey, who was a diplomat before coming to Congress, as well as Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who was a member of the Intelligence Committee. It was like a six-person co-chair committee. A lot of attention was paid to Taiwan, and that's right. But it was a bigger visit than that. It followed on the president's direction that we would have a focus on the Asia-Pacific. It also took up his initiative of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. So we went there to listen. It's important for us to have parliamentary to parliamentary exchanges as we, again, go forward with a new initiative.
Madam Speaker, just to jump in here.
In Singapore, in Singapore, we had, in all of the countries, we thanked the members of ASEAN and our Asian friends for their very strong support for the people of Ukraine and condemning Russia for their invasion. In all of the places that we brought our respect and to listen to what they had to say about how we go forward, security-wise, economic-wise, as well as in the terms of governance.
Well, let me just jump in here
because a part of that trip.
Yes, and it's only because time is short. I really want to make sure we get into this because there are reasons to take a trip like that. But as you well know, especially with foreign policy, national security, it often comes down to trade-offs and timing. Was it worth it now that you see the response? China has taken...
Absolutely, without any question.
Okay, because China has made a series of stunningly aggressive military moves in Taiwan. I mean, unprecedented in terms of the security of Taiwan. Was it worth it to make this trip now if that was the response from China?
I have overwhelming bipartisan support for our visit to Taiwan. As Speaker of the House and with the distinguished delegation that I went there with, we were very well received, thousands of people in the streets, received by the President of Taiwan, buildings with big welcoming to us. The people of Taiwan welcomed the visit. The Chinese government may not have, but China will not be allowed to isolate Taiwan. But a couple months ago, a delegation went from the Senate. It was bipartisan. It was high-powered, including the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. Nobody said a word. Nobody said a word. Did you even know about that trip? So I'm not going to, again, as a supporter of democracy in China, but this is about democracy in Taiwan. We cannot allow the Chinese government to isolate Taiwan. They may say to them, you can't go to the World Health Organization, but they're not going to say who can go to Taiwan. And yes, it was worth it. And what the Chinese are doing is what they usually do.
Even if it's on the Chinese, I think the administration is clear that, whatever crisis is upon us now, it is the Chinese who are the instigators of this crisis. That said, was it not foreseeable that they would react this way? And on the issue of timing, this comes at the very moment that the Biden administration is trying to work with China to hold off China from rearming Putin in Ukraine. So as you well know, there are multiple levels of chess here. So the question is whether a symbolic trip, important as it may be, in any way undermines some of those other also quite important objectives that the administration has.
Well, it may appear to be symbolic to you, but it was very substantial to us, for us to listen to the people in the region about our full agenda, but also not to say we're not going to Taiwan because the Chinese may act up. The president, as is his responsibility, is usually in touch with the Chinese about one thing or another, whether it's climate, and I think we have to work with China on the subject of climate.
They have closed dialogue on that since your visit. I guess that's the point.
What dialogue were you aware of that they were having on climate? They have been shutting down on many things. So again, this thing of, oh, but they were going to be doing this and they were going to be doing that. Let's just say this is not something that should be dividing us. We are not going to let China isolate Taiwan. And if if they can ignore a trip of 5 senators in a bipartisan way, why would they decide on my trip that it would be different? It's only a matter of months. And even about a few weeks before we went, a Republican senator went to Taiwan. So again, there's something wrong with this picture. And I'm used to taking the barbs about the men think it's this or that, but a woman goes, and it's a woman president of Taiwan. We are so proud of her. We want to support her courage. And every place I went, we were invited to go. So it is a question of what they think is important to them rather than some, again, a very strong bipartisan support for the trip. Yeah. But you know what? Why don't we just show China that we support Taiwan? It is part of the Taiwan Relations Act. We didn't go there to change our policy. We still support the one China policy. We go there to acknowledge the status quo is what our policy is. There was nothing disruptive about that. It was only about saying China is one of the freest societies in the world. Don't take it from me. That's from Freedom House.
Let's talk
a strong
a little bit.
Democracy, courageous people, and it's just, I don't know why it is, except there's some commercial interest who would like to diminish the relationship. But we're very, well, tomorrow we'll have a press conference. You'll hear from my other members about the pride we took in going there, the reception we received, the fact that the Chinese are going to do what they're going to do. And just because the president of Taiwan is a bully, the president of China acts like a bully, has his own insecurities, it doesn't mean that I'm going to have him do the schedule for members of Congress. Members of Congress can show their support for countries and democracies who are our friends. And according to the Taiwan Policy Act, Taiwan is our friend.